Hello and welcome to today's demonstration. I'm James Nicodemus, and today we're going to be doing some chemistry with some pennies, and we also have some nuts and some little nails here. But first we're going to go ahead and do our penny chemistry part here. I'm going to take 1/4 cup vinegar and 1 teaspoon of salt. We're going to mix that together here. Mix that up so it's all nice and melted. And then we're going to take some old, dirty, dark colored pennies here. I'm going to take about half these to start with here. And we're going to put these in this mixture here. If you want to kind of get a good view of this here, we're going to mix these up here a little bit. Saw how dark they were to begin with. Now they're getting all shiny again here. And what happens with these pennies is that they are coated with, they've gotten some corrosion on them there. They got some copper oxide, and this mixture of vinegar and water, or excuse me, vinegar and salt that we mixed up here is taking that layer off there. So we're going to take these out here. I'm going to take one more penny here and just dip it kind of halfway in so we can see the real difference between the half that's oxidized and the half that isn't here. Then I'm going to go ahead and take these pennies. And you get a little bit of an idea on that one there. I'm going to take these pennies and we're going to stop the reaction by putting them in this water here. And then I'm going to lay these out so you can see these nice bright shiny pennies now. Nice and copper colored there. Now back to this solution here. This solution right here, we have, now that we've dissolved that copper oxide in that vinegar and salt solution, I'm going to take half of these here. These are some nuts that are made out of zinc, and we're going to place these in solution here, see what happens to those. And then we're going to take some of these nickel brads right here. Going to mix these up, and we're going to pause the experiment here for a minute. We're going to come back and we're going to show you how these turned out. So we've now had just a few minutes of our zinc bolts and our nickel nails sitting in this solution here. I also took over here, here's our pennies that have we put in water after we took the corrosion off them. I also put these pennies right here, and next to some other pennies that I haven't done anything with. These other pennies here I put in the solution and cleaned them off, and I brought them out and did not rinse those off. We're going to let those sit for a while, and we're going to show what happens when they're exposed to air. In just a little bit here, we're going to put some of our first experiment here next to some ones that are not, so you can see the contrast between the two different sets of nails and bolts. Okay, so we've gone ahead and let these dry for just a little bit here, and I'm going to show you what we have here. So we started off, these are our pennies that we put in the vinegar solution and then rinsed them off with water, and they're nice and shiny still. And these have drawn up. I've got one next to it here to show so you can kind of see the contrast between the two. Then right back here, what we've gone ahead, and these are our ones that we put in the solution and then took out and allowed to dry for 20 minutes here. And you can see that it's starting to get a green color out there. These are starting to reoxidize. And then we also have a penny next to it just to show a little bit of contrast here. Now over here, these were our demo ones here. These are the ones we did not put in solution here. So these are our zinc bolts here, zinc nuts, and then right next door here, these are our ones that we put into solution that turn darker here. And then here we have some nickel nails here, and then right next here, these are the ones that we put into the solution here. You can see these have actually turned These have turned a bit of a pale copper color. So these have actually picked up some copper. Our zinc bolts picked up some copper, and we're getting some of this green patina that's reoxidizing on these pennies over here. I'm getting kind of a, you can see the green that's kind of even come off into solution onto the paper here. All right, in the second part here, we're going to talk about what happens in our chemical part of this.
So what we did is we took vinegar, which is acetic acid, and salt, which is sodium chloride, and we mix those two together, and then we get a sodium acetate and hydrochloric acid, and it's a back and forth reaction, so we do have some acetic acid as well. We have some acetate, hydrogen, sodium, and chloride ions in solution. So next, when we put the pennies into the solution, we get the copper oxide, and then that dissolves into a copper ion and an oxygen ion in aqueous solution. So we added copper and oxygen to our solution. When we take our zinc nuts and then we add those into the solution, we get a displacement reaction where we get copper replacing zinc on the nuts there. So then we start off with solid zinc and with aqueous copper, and then we get aqueous zinc and solid copper onto the nuts. The same thing happens with the nickel nails. We add that into solution. We get the nickel, which is a solid, mixed with the aqueous solution of the copper, and then we get a aqueous solution of the nickel ions and then some solid copper onto the nails, where we get that pale copper color onto the nails. When we take the pennies and take them out and just let them dry with the solution on there, then we get a reaction that happens with the copper, the oxygen, and the salts and the acetate with the atmospheric air. You get that green malachite color. It starts to patina and gets that, much like you'd see like with the Statue of Liberty or something, has that green color on it. Copper gets after a little bit of time. And the reason that we get, this is a list of the activities of metals, and gold being the least reactive and lithium being the most reactive. So we have copper right here, and we have copper into solution. Nickel, both nickel and zinc are higher on the list, and so they are more reactive than the copper. So then we get a displacement reaction, and from those two metals, and we get the zinc. We get the copper replacing the zinc and the copper replacing the nickel to make the colored the coloring on the nuts and on the nails. So anyway, thank you for watching, and we will see you next week.